SpaceX to transport to Gateway, ONEWEB files for bankruptcy, and Space Force's first launch. It's Tuesday, March 31, 2020, day 9 of lockdown here in Australia. Let's talk some science.
Across Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts and YouTube, this is Talking Science with Dr. Brad Tucker and Matt Miller.
Dr. Brad Tucker, happy Quarantine Tuesday.
Yes, another glorious day of inside time.
You sound so excited to be here.
Look, we actually had rain over the weekend, which was good. So, we're getting some rain. And look, the skies were pretty clear last night. I had a great view of the moon. And Venus is hanging out nice in the western sky for all of those who want to see it. And Venus, and we'll talk about this later, Venus is in phase, which means that if you have a small pair of binoculars, you can actually see that it's not a whole circle, that it's less than half Venus right now.
That is very exciting because I've got a 9-inch telescope sitting next to me that is gathering a lot of dust. So what you're saying is that during this quarantine, I should be chucking it on that back lawn. Well, not chucking it, but placing it on the back lawn and
gently setting it down
and pointing it westward.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great chance to see it. And, with something like that, you'll definitely be able to see that Venus is not just a single point, but it's in phase. And so Venus will be visible all the way through early May, and it'll get less and less. So we'll get less and less Venus when you see it, but it'll still be bright in the sky, with your naked eye. So it's another great thing to see. And then in the early morning hours, we have some planets that we'll start seeing more in the evening. So look, take advantage of being at home and look upwards because there's nothing up there to get you sick. So nothing like self-isolation than isolating yourself outside by yourself.
Absolutely. Well, you can find Brad on Twitter at btucker22, on Facebook, Dr. Brad Tucker. You can search for Trekzone on all of social media and you'll find us. And you can find me at Miramat86 on Twitter as well. Brad, let's dive into the show with the headlines.
Talking Science headlines.
And the first one up is SpaceX. It's another SpaceX show. They've discovered some problems with their parachute test.
Yeah, we talked about them getting ready for potential May launch. However, they were doing their final parachute testing of the Crew Dragon capsule. There was a problem with the gimbal and the helicopter release, so they weren't able to do it, which means that test is delayed. Now, with everything being delayed, who knows when that test will happen, and therefore it may affect a May launch window of the two astronauts on the Crew Dragon to the space station.
And in some news, in a headline close to home, you and the ANU team are going to be starting up some live streaming for the kids as they endure this lockdown phase and some schools being closed around the country and indeed around the world.
That's right. Not just the kids, the parents at home with the kids. So we'll be doing a series of talks and demos and activities aimed at all ages. It'll be completely open. It'll be both shareable link and on Facebook Live and stuff, and we'll connect it so people can not only get interesting astronomy talks, and we'll actually aim it at the things they'll be learning at school at their ages, but also activities that they can learn how to do at home so they can do their own science experiments with some simple things hopefully lying around the house.
It is very cool, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about that in the weeks to come on the main Monday show as well. We're going to give you a plug and dive into exactly what we can be doing. We sort of alluded it to there in the intro about what we can be doing at home. We don't have to just be staring at the walls or the ground or cleaning the pots and pans again for the 400th time.
That's right. Though cleaning pots and pans is a good chemistry experiment for the kids at home. I am very encouraging of how they can learn chemistry with the various cleaning materials at their house.
Talking Science, Stories of the Week.
And into the stories of the week, Brad. Like I said, it's a SpaceX show. We seem to do it every week. And the ratings love it when we do SpaceX, so let's just keep doing it. They've been announced as the transport to get crew and supplies. I think we already knew about the crew, but the supplies definitely to the Gateway station around the moon.
That's right. It's not all about them, but they're making progress with but it's also twofold. NASA's moving with plans for the Artemis. And they need people to start doing these things. I think we talked about last year, Blue Origin kind of developing the lander, and NASA has already kind of given them money to work on the lander. Well, here another private company will be having the cargo delivery to that gateway, what's called so that space station around the moon. And, and someone needs the contracts because they got to start building it. They have to start designing it. Things take time, so you can't just say, "Oh, it's going to be you." They need it to work, and they can't just repurpose the current capsule. They have to build a bigger special one for the moon.
Alrighty, well, OneWeb, SpaceX's Starlink rival, has filed for bankruptcy protection.
Yeah, OneWeb, we just talked about it at the end of last year when they launched their first batch of satellites, and then last month they launched a second batch. And then over the weekend filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It really, shows how, not only just how hard it is, but the costs involved and how of a long-term vision you have to have and stick to. Because ultimately, their financial backers who were expecting to increase their backing for $2 billion to start rolling out the rest of the network got cold feet and pulled out, and that's the end of it, which is a really sad sight to see for this company.
And lastly, this week, Brad, Space Force has had its first launch last Thursday.
Yeah, so one of probably the last rocket launches we'll see for the next few months, besides the astronauts in a week or two, is Space Force had their first mission, the AFHEA-6 satellite. So this is the sixth satellite in a series that was already built under a previous umbrella. Once Space Force was enacted, operation and development of it was transferred to them. So the satellite was finished under Space Force, and it had a successful launch on the Atlas V Thursday afternoon Eastern U.S. time.
And the AEHF stands for the Advanced Extremely High Frequency Satellite. It's going to be used by the US military as missile warning and navigation systems.
Yeah, so it's an upgraded communication satellite, and there's 6 of them spread around a geosynchronous orbit. So that means they kind of have fairly good global coverage with the network. And they also have some technology in there that they think is anti-jamming. And we've talked about satellite interference. And just, a few weeks ago, Space Force announcing there were some issues with Russian interference in satellites. So hopefully this is preventative of that. And they've already said, it will be able to use for their allies for their communications, really, again, specifically defense. And so we can kind of quickly see where Space Force is headed, which is exactly what, we've talked about, that it's not necessarily just about Star Wars and shooting things in space, but it is increasing the capability of the defense through space infrastructure.
Fantastic, Brad. Well, it is fun to pick apart the science and space stories of the week with you each and every week here on Talkin' Science. Once again, people can find you on Twitter at btucker22, on Facebook, Dr. Brad Tucker, and find Trekzone all over social media, just searching for Trekzone. Brad, it's been fun. Stay safe, be well, and we will catch you next week for more Talkin' Science.
Yeah, take care.